So the name is Jussi Ahola. I self-identify as a designer. The past years I've been doing most of my work at Vincit, where I consult clients. Also a couple of years back I founded a sort of like a side hustle called Dev Division, which is a growth hacking boutique, and actually just last week I founded a new company where we're trying to fight back global warming, so wish us luck there. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm a bit afraid or scared that you might be upset with my talk, or you're going to hate me at the end of this talk. That's a risk that I'm willing to take, because I'm going to undermine something that many of you have probably learned to trust. Something that they taught you at schools, something that you probably read a few books on, something that's really explicit, and I'm going to replace it with something much less explicit, something that's perhaps much more harder, but I think at the end of the day it pays off, and you're going to be a better designer, a better developer, a better product person because of it. The thing that I'm going to undermine is unwarranted trust in product development methodologies, because as said, I'm sick and tired of arguing over them. Let me start off with a story. So a friend of mine recently started in a new job. It's a kind of a big company, so the first few weeks it's just her settling down, but after that she's of course starts the real work, and she's handed over a project. She works in a kind of like a product owner slash designer hybrid role. So she meets all the developers, the other designer in the team, the architect, the key stakeholders, does some research and so on. So she's really on the roll. And there's a deadline looming, as there always is. It's not that far away. So being a good product owner as she is, she sets up some routines. And the daily stand-up meeting is one of them. Are you all aware of what a daily is? I heard it's the 6-minute daily stand-up, not a 5-minute, but a 6-minute daily stand-up in some traditions. I think this is a tradition from the Scrum book for the Scrum culture. That doesn't really matter here. So they start off with the dailies. The first few weeks go by nicely. The dailies are short. They're 6-minute, 8-minute, 10-minute dailies. Okay, everyone is happy. Then a few weeks onwards, she's still new in the job. So some of the developers are new with the project. There's one corner of the product that isn't really that well defined. It's on a high level still, and they really have to like discuss the nuances of the thing. They have to define the product, this corner of the product. They have to understand what they are building and why they're building it. And it's at the daily meeting. It takes some time. It takes 30 minutes. It takes 45 minutes. The developers are involved. They're really actually enjoying this. Everything is beautiful, and they make good progress during that meeting. It's not a 6-minute daily, it's a 45-minute daily. After the thing, the architect pulls my friend aside and sort of like scolds her that that's not how we do dailies. A daily is a 6-minute stand-up, and the developers, you shouldn't confuse the developers with all this pondering over product decisions. The developers need to be given well-defined tickets that they can just churn out one after one after one after one. And I can sort of like see where the architect comes from. He probably read the Scrum books or several Scrum books, and he wants to be a good architect. He wants to do good product development. There's a rule that he adheres to, a rule that is an important one for him. But what's wrong here? Does this feel wrong to any of you? Because it sure feels wrong to me. I think it's against a lot of what I understand about human motivation, about how professionals, really like top professionals as developers really are, highly skilled people, how they are motivated, how they want to work. Because I've found that the best developers really want to understand the thing that they're building. They want to understand the needs behind it. They are not happy just churning out ticket after ticket after ticket. So it's in total contradiction to what I know about human motivation. Also, there's a really important thing that I'm going to talk about later on about having a shared understanding. Because the developer needs to do all these micro decisions down the line. Even a well-defined ticket won't have all the nuances in it. If the developer doesn't understand why we're doing this, to whom are we doing this, and what are we actually building, the chances are that those micro decisions are going to be bad ones. So the field that I work in, the let's call this the digital development world, is of course full of this stuff. Any familiar ones there? Yeah. And all of these have their like fanboys and fangirls, their adherents, and so on. And if you want to pick up a fight during a coffee break with your senior colleague, you can. There's a good topic here. If you want to spend some not that well spent time online, you can just start a fight there and mock a methodology, and you're probably gonna have people fighting back. It's a good pastime if you're into that. And I have nothing against using methods. I think they're like intended to be systematic ways of succeeding, of getting something out of the pipeline. If that's what you want to call a success, the thing that comes out of the pipeline might not be the thing that you should have made in the first place, but there's something that comes out. Methods are also nice to write books on. They are nice to sell stuff on. They're nice to organize conferences on, which is okay, nothing against that. But I think they shouldn't become like this coast, these spirits, these shrines that you worship. Because if they do, you're not. I don't think methods are right, but don't use them that way. There are probably some bad methods out there, maybe some of these, I don't know all this in a detailed way, but I'm sure that there is a lot of good methods out there. And here's the secret. A good team adhering to some other things will make good products using any of the good methods. The method isn't really the showstopper, it's always something else. So, to me, there's something that should always transcend a method, something that's more important, more sacred. And that's what I like to call principles. So going back to the 6-minute daily example, I have a similar experience myself when I was in a sort of like a product owner role in this one project. We had the dailies. They were short in the beginning. Then we had this like very sort of like almost philosophical discussions on our product, like making really hard product decisions that had like even ethical implications. And the daily started taking a longer time, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I felt bad because being a good product owner myself, I haven't read any like Scrum books or anything, but I knew about the 6-minute daily, that I'm taking too much time, I'm creating waste. I felt bad. But then I realized that the method of the 6-minute daily isn't that important. What's more important to me is a very specific principle, which I'm going to talk about a bit later. So I try to visualize it in this sort of a way. I'm not sure if it's a good visualization for this or not. So the balls are different teams building different projects using different methodologies. They're all good methodologies. They're not any of the bad methodologies, they're good methodologies. The funnel, or the walls of the funnel are principles that keep pushing the thing in the right direction, that keep nudging the behavior in the team in the right direction. And you can start with any of the good methodologies. And you can end up with a good product if you have the right principles in place. But if you don't have the right principles in place, it doesn't matter which one of the good methodologies you choose, you're going to fail anyway if you don't have the right principles in place. Oh, it's just like a lot of nice colors that I like to have there. Yeah, I never heard of a team who failed because they chose a wrong methodology, but I sure as hell have seen some teams who struggle because they don't have the right principles in place. they don't have anything to move them forward. It's something that would transcend the methodology, the rule that they're playing by. So, what I'm suggesting is that always choose principles over methodologies. To give you sort of like a taste, a feel to what I mean by a principle, I'm just going to list three of mine. It's not a full list. It's not an exhaustive list. I don't have an exhaustive list. I just started thinking about this like a few weeks ago when I started preparing for this talk. I don't have an exhaustive list, but I think I have a few principles nailed down that I like to adhere to. These are quite personal, actually. But yeah, back to the 6-minute daily example. Had I decided to stop the dailies at the 6-minute mark and told everyone to go design your stuff or code your stuff and let's not go on with this anymore, I would have adhered to the method. But the thing that transcends the method to me is a principle that I want to achieve shared understanding. I want there to be a shared vision in the team, because people who share a vision, who share understanding, will fly with great speeds, and they will fly in the same direction, which is great. So how do you cultivate shared understanding or shared vision? I think there's a lot of ways to do that. The extended daily that I just mentioned, one of them. I also, whenever I do not whenever, in most cases when I do user research or usability testing with some test people, I take a developer with me. And you can't skip that. You have to come at least once every 6 months or something like that. And that's a hard rule that I like to explain to the developers, that this is why we're doing it. I want you to share the pain. I want you to share the understanding. I want you to share the vision, because we'll go far when we do that. So involve people. It's a kind of a funny situation that many of the developers out there never actually see the real people using the product. I don't know, what's up with that? How wrong could that be? Okay. Another principle. Start off right. Beginnings are extremely important. If a person is put into a pitch black room and there's a pinpoint of light somewhere on the wall, there's this illusion that the pinpoint of light starts moving. I think this is called the autokinetic effect. And then there are some research settings where people are asked how long of a distance did the light move, and the answer doesn't really matter, because any answer is going to be wrong, of course, because the light didn't move. When it gets interesting when you place groups of people into this room, and you tell them to say their estimation of what the distance was out loud. The group starts to converge on the number that the first people said out loud. So we have group A, who say it moved 3 units, centimeters, whatever. You have group B, who says it moved 20 centimeters or units, it doesn't matter. And the groups converge. They are of the similar opinion. And when it gets, and if you bring the same people back in a year's time, they will still converge. It's funny. And where it gets even more interesting is that when you start changing people in the group, like people leaving, new people coming in, they still converge. It's in the group's DNA almost, the estimate. It's part of the tradition. Even when all the people that were in the group in the beginning have left, and all the people in the group are new people, they still converge on the same numbers. So, what does this tell us about starting off right projects? So, I think it's massively important. Sometimes I've been asked to help some teams where they're struggling with some product development issues with how the team functions, and I feel that sometimes it even feels like a lost cause. The path tradition in the group is so strong that it's really, really, really hard to change. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try, but it's really hard. So starting off right is an important principle. Last one of the principles that I'm going to share today is a really important one. Care. So care about the problem you're solving, care about the people, the planet, the animals, the causes you're solving it for. If you don't, you have to ask yourself, am I the right person to solve this thing? Care about the people who are solving the problem with you. And if you see bad work, suboptimal work, care enough to point to it and say that, is there a way that we could improve this? So care, care, and care again. That's a really important one. So these were some of my principles, just 3 of them, not a full list, not an exhaustive list, but something that really helped me in my day-to-day work, in life in general. As opposed to some rules that I worship, these are the sort of like the spirits that I try to keep happy. And if I keep the spirits happy, they will keep me happy, they'll have my back, and I'm good going forward. And I don't think you can like carbon copy my principles. I hope you can be inspired by them, but don't copy them. I think you're going to have to arrive in your own principles, at your own principles. And people in the team that you work in can have different principles, and you're going to have to like understand those principles on a deep level, accommodate for those principles, and in the team agree like what are our principles. I might have some that you don't share, and we're going to have to find common ground on that to be able to move forward. So I'd like to leave you with a quote, which I think it's often misattributed to the American 19th century poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. I think it was probably actually said by another Emerson. Harrington Emerson was a prominent management consultant in the early 20th century who said this: "As the methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble." I couldn't agree more. So, always choose principles over methods. That's everything I have for you today. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Jussi. That was great. Are there any questions in the audience? Something you would like to ask regarding this? Maybe how you can move forward with your team, incorporating something like this? Okay, if there are no questions, I would like to ask you, because you touched briefly on that we need to learn about the people that we work with and on their principles. Like, what is your general way of going on about that?
I think teams work the best when they are tight, when they like operate like a rock band, when they smell each other in the backstage. That's when you start learning about people. There's no easy way of doing that. And as I said, like doing this thing is hard. It's easier to write a book on a method and describe your rule, your to-do lists. This is a harder approach, and I think it's the right approach. But be tight, have some open discussions, maybe have a glass of wine. It sometimes helps.
So just get to know them the old school way, basically, and how they work. Okay. Anyone has thought of something?
Hey, thank you for presentation. And my question is, like, do you think, or how do you think principles can be scaled on large organizations? I guess this is also quite challenging.
I haven't. The organizations that I worked in have been like not huge, smaller ones, medium-sized. So I haven't really thought about it. I haven't a good answer for you. I think organizations try to do that. They have their values page. We have these values, and they're often really lame. But I think this is sort of like something that they're trying to aim with those like value statements, that transparency and stuff like that, equality, which is, of course, it's good. You need to have those things, but sometimes it feels a bit lame to me. So I don't know, like communication, internal, external. If you're going to make a statement about your product, an ad campaign, I think you can like implicitly state your principles in the video. I think never settle. It's a principle. I think it's an ad as well. So yeah.
What would you say are then the values or principles of Vincit? How are they reflected in your ad campaigns?
You're probably referring to something, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. This puts me in an odd place. I think that the values in a big consulting company aren't that clear to me either. Yeah. That's all I can say about that. Yep. I'm sorry as well.
Anyone else?
Have you been measure the project without the principles and methods? So, like, what's the differences between if you totally remove all the methods and
Yeah, I'm not saying that methods are bad or that you should remove all of them. I think they're like. So if you have to think everything through every time you're doing it again and again, it's not good efficiency-wise. So sure, there's nothing wrong with having methods and these like traditions or things that you do on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. By all means, do those. So, but I think if you don't go up by the book if it doesn't feel right. You should have something above the methods as well, which I like to call principles.
One more.
About the importance of starting off or kicking off, do you have an example of where the start was exceptionally good or like close to your own principles?
Yeah, there are some tricks that you can do, like make, for instance, I'm just giving some examples, make some team artifacts that aren't really necessarily the product that you're going to build, but make something else, sort of like a team internal hack fest or whatever, like hack something together. You can learn something about how you work together, how you work, how I work, what sort of issues there might be that we need to address, and so on. So make team artifacts. Go to a weekend offsite to a cabin somewhere, and that's good. These are just like really basic, like human things. I don't think there's any maneuvers needed there. Just be a good person.